You think you know Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, but what if the story you learned in school is only half the truth? A half-truth, crafted, polished, and repeated for generations, while the real events of that night were quietly buried. Picture the scene, April 18th, 1775. A cold, uneasy night in Boston. The British Army preparing to march, and a single American rider, Paul Revere, slipping away from the city to warn the countryside. You've heard the line, one if by land and two if by sea. You've seen the paintings, the textbooks, the myth. But the truth? The truth is far more complex. The hero you learned about wasn't riding alone. The warning wasn't delivered the way you were told. And the events of that night hinge on details the public was never taught. Details that change the meaning of the Midnight Ride entirely. Tonight, we pull apart the legend. We uncover the names history forgot. And we reveal the secret network operating behind Revere. A network that transformed one man's ride into a coordinated intelligence mission that shaped the birth of a nation. Paul Revere may be the name etched into memory, but he was never the only rider. In fact, the true alarm that swept across Massachusetts that night depended on people history chose not to remember. The first forgotten figure was William Dawes, a man you've likely never heard of, though he risked just as much as Revere. While Revere slipped out of Boston by boat, Dawes took the longer, more dangerous land route, slipping past British patrols on foot and horseback just to deliver the same warning. His contribution was no less vital. If Revere failed, Dawes was the backup. If Dawes failed, the colonies had one more chance, a final rider almost erased from the story entirely. Dr. Samuel Prescott, the third rider, the youngest, and arguably the most important. Because when Revere and Dawes were detained by British officers, it was Prescott, the one history forgot, who broke through the patrol line, escaped into the woods, and carried the message farther than either of them. Without Prescott, the alarm might have never reached Concord in time. But here's the part that textbooks rarely mention. This wasn't a heroic solo dash through the night. It was a coordinated warning system, a rural intelligence network made of farmers, shopkeepers, blacksmiths, stable hands, and ordinary citizens, all connected, all ready. These were the real unsung heroes of midnight, people who didn't ride into legend, but without whom the revolution might have died before it began. To understand the Midnight Ride, you have to erase the image school gave you. A lone hero racing against time, because the truth is far more intricate and far more dangerous. For weeks before April 18, 1775, Boston was a city living under surveillance. British troops filled the streets. Curfews tightened. Suspicion spread like smoke. But while soldiers patrolled openly, something else was happening in the shadows. Patriot leaders had constructed one of the earliest intelligence networks in American history, long before the United States even existed. Every British movement, every whisper of strategy, every shipment of gunpowder was quietly observed, passed along, and catalogued. And the most overlooked players? Women, shopkeepers, servants, people the British ignored, and that was their mistake. They listened, they watched, they carried messages the way only invisible people can.
These everyday citizens became conduits of critical intelligence. A waiter overhearing officers, a ferryman noticing unusual troop movements, a merchant's wife spotting lantern signals from a church tower. Even the lanterns we all learned about, one if by land, two if by sea, weren't instructions for Revere. They were confirmation signals for an entire network already in motion. The system was so effective that patriots often knew British orders before some British officers did. They used coded phrases, secret rendezvous points, and silent couriers who could pass through British lines without raising suspicion. These weren't amateurs improvising. This was an organized intelligence operation, long before anyone used the word spy. So by the time Revere mounted his horse that night, the wheels of resistance were already turning. The warning wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the final activation of a plan weeks in the making. And that plan would be tested within minutes, because Revere's ride was about to collide with danger far greater than lanterns and coded words.
By the time Paul Revere pushed into the night, the countryside wasn't asleep. It was holding its breath. But the story we're told leaves out the part that made his ride nearly impossible. Revere didn't gallop through empty fields. He rode into a territory crawling with British patrols, informants, and loyalist pockets ready to report any suspicious movement. Every turn held the possibility of capture, or worse. His path wasn't a straight line, it was a maze, one designed to dodge checkpoints and quietly alert Patriot contacts along the way. Each stop wasn't just a warning, it was a spark, igniting a chain reaction across Massachusetts. The truth is, Revere wasn't shouting into the night. He was coordinating with an already prepared militia, ready to mobilize within minutes. The message wasn't, "The British are coming." It was a call to arms for an entire network, waiting for the signal. But the danger wasn't theoretical. Less than halfway through the mission, Revere encountered what every writer feared, a British patrol lying in wait. Captured at gunpoint, Revere faced the real risk of the midnight ride, not failing the mission, but being silenced before the revolution ever began. And this is the part that history books smooth over. Revere didn't escape because the patrol let him go. He escaped because he used the one advantage he had: knowledge. He bluffed. He exaggerated the size and proximity of the militia. And it worked. The patrol panicked. Revere was released, but not before delivering the crucial intelligence that Lexington and Concord were now exposed. Revere didn't finish his ride, but his message did, carried forward by Dr. Samuel Prescott, the only rider to reach Concord. And because of that, when the British Army marched at dawn, the colonists were waiting. The midnight ride wasn't a heroic sprint. It was a high-stakes operation, and Revere's capture wasn't a failure. It was proof of how dangerous and how vital the mission truly was. But the story you know, the story America celebrates, didn't come from facts. It came from a poem written decades later, and that poem hid almost everything. The midnight ride has become a symbol, clean, heroic, and simple. But history is rarely simple and almost never clean. For generations, Americans learned the version of events crafted not by eyewitnesses, not by historians, but by a poet. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wasn't trying to deceive anyone. He was trying to inspire a nation on the brink of civil war. His poem turned
Paul Revere into a lone hero, a single rider who carried the fate of a revolution on his shoulders. A beautiful story, but not the true one. The real story was never about one man. It was about many. The riders you do not hear about, the families who risked retaliation, the women who passed information quietly, unnoticed. It was a network, not a legend. William Dawes rode just as far. Samuel Prescott delivered the final warning. Dozens of others mobilized militias while British patrols scoured the roads. But history favors simplicity. It favors one face, one figure. Yet the truth is far more powerful. What happened on April 18, 1775 was not the work of a lone midnight rider. It was the first proof that ordinary people working together could resist an empire. Longfellow gave America a hero. But the real legacy of that night belongs to the community, to the collective vigilance, the shared intelligence, the unspoken trust that held a fragile resistance together. And that's why this story still matters, because movements are built the same way today as they were then, not by singular legends, but by networks of people who refuse to look away, who refuse to be silent. The Midnight Ride was bigger than Revere, bigger than a poem. It was the night ordinary citizens became guardians of their own future, and the echo of that night still rides with us, a reminder that history is shaped not by the stories we are told, but by the truths we choose to uncover.